A Respectable Occupation was published in France when I was 30 years old, so it was a sort of a birthday present that I gave myself. I think that I wanted to reflect on how and why I became a writer. I thought about Alexander Pope's line, why did I write what seemed to be unknown, my parents or my own, dipped me in ink. As I grew up, I knew nothing except that I wanted to write books. And as I grew up, I've made decisions that I hope would take me where I wanted to be. I've decided to be a waitress in the summers so that I could write in winters. I decided that being poor was acceptable if I could be free instead. And I decided that I had to learn how to live alone and be alone and work alone, because books are usually written in solitude. But maybe these were not sacrifices. Maybe that was just the life that I loved. I think everybody should experience manual jobs and manual activity first because it is interesting. Um, William Faulkner used to say, I am not a man of letters, I am a peasant. And that's a pose. Otherwise, he would be the very first peasant ever to get the Nobel Prize for Literature. When I was younger, I used to say that I was a craft woman, yes. But I came to question this notion, and eventually I wrote my PhD thesis on the subject of the legend of the writers and the actual work. And I found out that because most writers are men, and writing fiction is not seen as a manly activity, they tend to present themselves as craftsmen or peasants or anything but someone thrilled by art making. But I don't think that I have to prove my manliness. I am a woman. Obviously, my books are not about politics. I don't listen to the radio, I don't own a TV, and the only paper I read is The New Yorker. But I do believe in the power of fiction to shape and influence the real world. So I am shamelessly blowing my own horn. I write books and about women. Books are important and women are free. And that be my politics. Ruth Diver has done an amazing job, and I have no words to say how moved I was when I discovered her translation. Be bold enough to dare write, and humble enough to accept criticism, because there will be some. Lose control, think ahead, and read. Read old books, new books, small books, big books. Read, because that's how you got there in the first place.
Hello, my name is Ruth Diver, and I'm the translator of A Respectable Occupation by Julia Kerninon. I'm recording this from my home in Auckland, New Zealand, and the passage that I'll be reading comes from somewhere near the middle of this wonderful little book. Behind my mother's belief that it was important to leave the reader some space in a book, there was the vague but persistent idea that other people were, in fact, impenetrable, that there should be some means to understand them and to be understood by them, but that these means were even more complex than the problem they were supposed to solve, and that it was therefore safer to stay away from any activity that included human beings, with the notable exception of love. People were vague, unreliable, and more devious than us. Discernible behind each of their transparent sentences were others, and those were apparently the ones we should have heard. But we could never understand why, and so we refused to do so. That was our luxury. We were very, very lucky, she told me, because we had books. And in books, the sentences were eternal, black on white, solid, credible. They weren't up in the air. They didn't come out of nowhere. They had been polished, ordered, thought through by precise, attentive individuals, and they offered up The whole world, the accelerated, perfected world, washed clean of its dross, with no downtime, a pure and bouncing stream, a world into which we could escape whenever the real world stopped being interesting, which happened all too often when someone came to talk to us. And that lesson was a great lesson too, for someone who wanted to become a writer.